Howdy, friends, and welcome to a new episode of A Journey into Thornbury's Mind. Still with how to teach vocabulary, and now with chapter 2. Chapter 2 is about how words are learned. There are a lot of interesting topics here and subheadings, but we will focus only on remembering words. How can we remember words? So we talk here about memory. And here Thornbury distinguished between three types of memory: short-term memory, working memory, and long-term memory. Short-term memory, only a few seconds, up to 20 seconds. Working memory, about a minute at most. And long-term memory, and this follows a continuum between the quickly forgotten, so we can forget the word after 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So this is a long-term memory, but this is quickly forgotten. So you can move from this to till the lifetime storage, to the till the permanent storage or the permanent memory. So now how can we move information, or we move the words from the quickly forgotten stage to the permanent memory or the never forgotten stage? Of course, there are a lot of factors that affect this kind of storage, or the length of storage, or the strength of storage of these words in your memory. What are they? Number one, repetition. Repetition has two meanings according to Thornbury. The normal or the common repetition that we do in our classroom usually, which is modeling and drilling. So you say a word and students repeat after you. Thornbury emphasizes that this is only useful for the short-term memory. So you cannot do this even if students keep repeating and repeating. This does not guarantee that students will be able to recall the words after the lesson if you only do this mechanical repetition. And here I would say that we can do something to move from this mechanical repetition and to make it, because they are kind of boring for students, we can make some tricks and some games to make it a fun activity, which it contributes to strengthen the storage of these words. For example, one fun activity that I usually use in my class, which arouse a lot of laughter in class and a lot of fun, which of course contribute to the motivation of students and the element of interest. What is that? For example, I usually, after presenting some words, I usually ask students that I will say some words and repeat them backward. For example, so if we're talking about fun, so here, fun, memory. So the students need to say memory, fun. Okay, fun, memory, storage. So they need to say storage, memory, fun. Fun, memory, storage. For example, would you say repetition? So they need to say repetition, memory, fun, or storage, fun, like this. So when the words are, the more you have words, the more challenge you will have, and the more interest you will have in your class. This is very interesting in your class, to move drilling from kind of boring activity into an interesting one. So this is the normal or the common repetition. Another type of repetition which Thornbury thinks that it is more useful in terms of long-term memory, which is encounters. The number of encounters you have in the text of these words. So imagine you are presenting, or you have presented 6 or 7 words. You need to have a text, or to find a text. As a teacher, you need to find a text that includes a lot of these vocabulary, that these vocabulary are repeated along this text. This will help students to, each time they will find the word or they will see the word, you are strengthening the storage of the word in your mind. So you need, as a teacher, to find texts which have a lot of encounters of the words that you are presenting. So this can be a reading text or a listening text, of course. So we have two types of repetition: the drilling, modeling and drilling, and the other one is the encounters, which is more useful for students. Also, and this also drives us to the importance of using text in your classroom. Text, a lot of text. This means that the more you use text and context reading and listening in your class, this means that students will encounter the previous words that they have studied a lot and a lot. And this is a kind of reinforcing this knowledge of the words. This is number one. Number two, retrieving. And retrieving is another type of repetition, actually, but in a kind of practice. Retrieving, we can say that it is a kind of recalling. So the more students retrieve the words, the more they are likely to be or to remember them. So this is the role of the teacher, to provide opportunity for retrieving, and this is what we call recycling activities. And when we talk about recycling activities here, we need to think about two important elements here. The element of variety. So you need to think about a variety of activities in order for one to avoid boredom in class. So if you always recycle vocabulary through a multiple choice question, MCQ questions, students will feel bored. So this is one idea. Another idea is that you need to provide a lot of ways in which these words are organized in your mental lexicon or in your mind. So you need a lot of different activities. For example, one time you can use MCQs or gap fill, these traditional activities. Another time you go into the class and you ask students to brainstorm words. So brainstorm words, write as many words as you can about tourism, for example. So write as many words as you can about tourism. So they write. So here, after that, they compare with their friends, which gives them another opportunity for remembering or for adding to their information. In a later lesson, you can provide students with some words on overhead projector or on worksheets, and you ask students to organize these words or classify these words, to find a way to categorize these words in two or three different categories. It's a more complex, more demanding task for students to do. So this helps students to avoid boredom and at the same time to organize these words in different ways in their mental lexicon or in their minds, which helps a lot in terms of memory and recalling later. So this is about variety. And the other element that we need to think about while talking about retrieving is the spacing. So some teachers give a lot of practice one time, so that the students remember, or they help students remember. And I think this is not useful. And also Thornbury thinks that this is not very useful. So you need to distribute your practice, your recycling activities, and to have different spaces between each recycle and the other. For example, you have presented some words today, so tomorrow you can recycle. Then, so this is one day. Then you leave 2 or 3 days, then recycle the same words again. Then you leave a week or 2 weeks, then recycle, then a month, like this. So this kind of spacing is very important in terms of memory. So this is about now repetition, retrieving, and spacing. The other idea is use. So students need to use the words that they have learned. And this is why we usually have a production stage at the end of each lesson, not only vocabulary lessons. Any kind of lessons ends usually with production. Students produce the language so that they can use the language that they have learned about. So you need to find or to provide opportunities for students to use the language following the principle of use it or lose it. If you don't use it, you will lose it. And here also some of the opportunities is to help or to encourage your students to speak English in class in a natural way. A lot of activities in the leading activity each time, brainstorming, providing activities also that help students use or make use of the words that they have learned, writing activities, exploiting text, reading text and listening text afterwards. This is also important in terms of use. The next element is personal organization of these words. So Thornbury mentions that there are a lot of studies which emphasize the importance of having a personal relationship between the words and the person and the words. So they use these words in a personalized way. So one common way of doing so is to ask students to write 5 sentences about themselves or 6 sentences about themselves using these words. Use each word in a sentence about yourself. And here some teachers can say that some students are not able enough to do this. They don't have the linguistic level that allows them to use these words in a personalized way, or some words, the nature of the words themselves cannot be personalized. And yes, I agree with you. So here, what can we do? We can provide students with some frames that can help. They have the frame and they will only fill in the gaps, also in a personalized way. For example, you can say I, and then you have adverbs of frequency. They choose from them: always, sometimes, rarely, never use this word in my first language. Okay, another one. The last time I heard this word in my first language was, so it gives the time. The last person I used this word with, or I spoke this word with, was, so they give a time. So this is one, there are a lot of sentence frames that you can use to help students personalize this. Of course, the other way is personalized. If the words are applicable to be personalized, if the students are good enough or smart enough to do this, you can leave them to do this independently. So this is personalizing. The other way, or the other factor, the next factor, is imaging. So also Thornbury explains that studies have proved that relating or connecting the words or a word with a picture means that it is more likely to be remembered afterwards. And somebody may say that this is not also applicable for all, or not all the words um, can be related to a picture, or we can match to a picture. Some words are abstract and we cannot connect to a picture. Yes, I agree with you. What can we do? So encourage your students to have some kind of mental image for the word. For example, if we have the word clarity, so I can't find, I don't think I can find easily a picture which I can match directly with clarity. But you can ask your students, think of a situation or think of a place and people that remind you of the word clarity. They can think of a classroom, teacher, and students, because this is about clarity of lessons or like this. Disease, so they can think about a hospital, doctors, nurses. So this is a kind of mental image for this word. Also, we can talk about the other factor is mnemonics, using mnemonics. And mnemonics are some tricks that we use in order to help us remember either the form or the meaning of the word. And this can be done in a lot of different ways. Actually, this needs a video in itself. But quickly we can we can explain that this can be done through a picture, through other words that you know. So you can relate the word with another word that you know which is similar to this word. For example, the word hobby. So when you teach the word hobby for the first time for elementary students, you can ask them what word is reminds you of this word. What word do you have in mind? So they can think of happy, and then you ask them to relate what are they similar in. So they are similar in the form. Do they have any similarity in the meaning? This makes you help them avoid the confusion between the two words, and at the same time the one word reminds the students of the other word. And I will tell you a story that happened to myself. One word, when I first learned the word procrastination, I usually forgot the form of it after this. So what is procrastination? It's kind of delaying what you want to do till later time. So this is delaying. and procrastinate. Every time I want to remember the word, I found it difficult. So I looked at the word and tried to relate to one word in my first language, which is Arabic. So I found it procrastinate. And in Arabic, we have the word bukra. In the Egyptian accent, we say bukra. And here, procra and bukra. So this is a kind of similarity in the form. And I tried to connect the meaning. I found that bukra is a kind of delaying, something that you delay, and procrastinating is something you delay. So from that time, I never forgot the form of the word procrastination. So this is about mnemonic. The next factor affecting the memory is the affective depth. Affective depth. Students need to have some kind of emotional relationship with the words. So why not you ask the words whether they like, which words of these that you like most in terms of the form or pronunciation or even the meaning. So students can look at the word with a different perspective. So whether they like the form of the word or not, whether they like and why. So one student told me that he likes the word museum. So I asked him why. He told me that you can read it or it starts with M and ends with M. And the second letter from the beginning is U, and the same with the second letter from the last. So the students can make some kind of connection, which this is also can be a mnemonic for him. So ask the students whether they like the words or not, which words they like most. Put the words in order of preference in terms of pronunciation and in terms of form. Then ask them to compare together these words. This can help students have some kind of emotional relationship, whether they can feel the words, whether they like it or not, and why. This also helps in terms of memory. The last factor that Thornbury mentioned is cognitive depth. Cognitive is something related to the mind, and this is all about making decisions about the words. And Thornbury explains that the more decisions we make about a word, the more memorable the word is, and the more demanding the task or the decision is, the more memorable the word is. There are a lot of different decisions. Or if you ask students to fill in the gaps with words from a list, this is a decision. Students need to make a decision about the meaning. If you ask students to find words which rhyme with this, which have the same rhyme with this word, this is also a decision. To identify or to classify the word noun, verb, adjective, adverb, this is a kind of decisions to make about. There are different, and we will deal with this in the next week when we talk about practice or practicing vocabulary. So this is about chapter 2, the memory, and these are the most important factors affecting students memorizing vocabulary and memorizing words. In the next video, we will talk about how to present vocabulary, presenting vocabulary. What are the different types of presentation, how different are words, and how different ways. So we have, for example, concrete words and we have abstract words. What are the different ways of presenting this and that? This is what we will deal with next time. If you want to follow our videos or the next videos, the next series of Thornbury's or Journey into Thornbury's Mind, please subscribe to the channel and share the video with your friends. Thank you for watching and meet you next Thursday. Thank you.